anyone that gave their life, because that's what this weekend is about, remembering those who went into war, if you will. So we give thanks. I'd like just to say that right now.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So our question of the morning then becomes, what does it mean to live big? What does it mean to live big? And this, of course, is a topic that we do speak about a lot here at Joyful Gathering. We're always expanding our consciousness. We're always, more and more, because the divine is always growing, always becoming more of itself. But it's a frequent topic because it's what we came here to do and to be. And we're going to really get into that this day. We came here to live big, not small, big. Meaning to express the divine within us at our highest level of understanding. To express that however we can. And in the Science of Mind book, Ernest Holmes wrote this: God is more completely expressed through the one who lives largely than the one who lives meagerly. Expanding consciousness, expanding the flow, giving and receiving. But most people don't do that. Rather, as Thoreau wrote in Walden, the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. Yeah. But not us. No, not us. We are small but mighty here this day. We're basing a lot of half of this month's talks on Pam Grout's book, Living Big. And it begins with this great quote. The book begins with this great quote. And this is by Bob Savino. Every day you are signaled and summoned to embark on a journey beyond the boundaries of all you have ever known. Every day. Do we play small and pull ourselves back and withdraw? Or do we step out? And do we take that chance? Do we take that, what it looks like, a risk? But again, most people don't do that. And so a poet, Rainier Maria Rilke, I'm saying that right, I looked it up on the dictionary.
Rilke.
Well, the dictionary said Rilke. So, anyway, this is what she wrote. Most people come to know only one corner of their room. One narrow strip on which they keep walking back and forth. Back and forth, the familiar. We walk it, we walk back, we walk forward, we walk back. We're familiar, we're comfortable. That's okay. That's okay. Except, living big is about discovering the whole room. Not just one strip of the room. The whole room. There's so much more. There's so much more. Living big, it's about discovering the rest of that room that we reside in. And we've probably all heard the statistics that we have 60,000 thoughts a day. I don't know who counted that, but that's the statistics. But what you might not know is that approximately 98% of those thoughts are the same ones that we had yesterday. So there's 58,000 of them. You ever find that? You think of the same things over and over again. Yeah, there's a few new ones that pop in, but we usually don't listen to the new ones. We go with that big 58,000 thoughts that are just playing over and over again in our minds. Just think what we could do with our lives if we even took half of those daily thoughts of thinking up new solutions, new ideas, new ways to express who we are in life. And we do this in unison with the God of our understanding, with that divine energy that we call God, we call divine, we call whatever we want to call it, but it's a power beyond what we can see. We can feel it. We can feel it. So we step out into the unknown. We step out into the unknown, leaving that comfort zone, into greater possibilities, infinite potential, the things we talk about. It's not available in this small little strip that we're walking back and forth on. So Pam Grout writes this: we live at half throttle. We suit up for hopscotch when we could be performing miracles. We're completely oblivious to our own majesty, to the fact that the very heartbeat of the divine flows through our veins. This is true. Living big is about tapping into the unused resources of our minds, loving with every ounce of our souls, and stepping up to claim our wildest dreams. Are we doing any of that? Some of us are. Just food for thought, to planting a seed, as we will do at the end of this talk. So for the next 3 weeks, we're going to look at what attitudes it takes to live a big life. What attitudes? Because it's all about our attitude. Remember that. It's all about how we show up, how we suit up, what we align with, how we really go with those new thoughts. And these are the 3 topics we're going to get into today. Think big, which is the attitude of boldness. Imagine big, which is the attitude of creativity. And play big, which is the attitude of happiness. Happiness. So first, think big. The attitude of boldness. Of boldness. In one of the first scenes of the stage adaptation of Robert Fulham's All I Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten went like this. The kindergarten teacher asks her fresh young students, how many of them are dancers? Kindergarten, right? I am, they all exclaimed. How many of you are singers? They all waved their hands wildly. I am. Painters, all the same response. And writers, more of that same enthusiasm. In 4th grade, another teacher asked the same group of students. Now only a third of them are painters, or singers, or writers and dancers. Only a third. And by high school, the number of students willing to claim their artistic talent is down to a paltry few. Where did all the passion and boldness go? Where'd it go? Remember when you were a little kid, everything was exciting. I don't care if you were getting beat up or whatever was going on in that part of your life. But as a little kid, you were still excited about life, about every little thing. It was excitement. Somewhere along the line for most of us, that boldness and that passion went away. And perhaps we feel it was taken from us. Perhaps it was a subtle erosion. But it's gone. So what if for today, you start to reignite that spark of boldness. Just reignite it. And to know who you are, that passion of who you are, what you came in this world with, to really connect with it. What if today you challenge the status quo of your life, the way it is? Being bold is simply a matter of claiming and reclaiming your inheritance as children of the divine, your inheritance as to live a life in a freeing manner, absolutely free. We think we're bound by all of these circumstances. I must say that today, right now, in fact, started 5 minutes ago, my son is at a funeral. His very best friend, I wasn't even going to bring it up, but it's coming through, so I will, had a heart attack at 42 on the golf course Friday, and is gone from this world. It's gone. And what that did, I think he was this was like a brother to him since he was 9. And what this did, and what it's doing for when I'm seeing all of the friends around that grew up together, is making them see what's important in life. What's important in life is to live it full out, to live it boldly. And to then, when we do, and we're all going to leave this experience, when we do, at least we have enjoyed the ride. I have to say that Matt enjoyed the ride. Matt Klager, I don't know. He enjoyed the ride. He lived full out. He lived full out. But that's for all of us, a reminder. And Grout wrote this: when we refuse to be bold, when we forget to say, I count, we might as well hand in our keys. Without boldness, life is a little more than rote recitation. Just living it smallly, over and over again. And here's an example of boldness, which I love. When Walt Disney was in grade school, a well-meaning teacher peered over his shoulder as he was drawing in the margins of his paper a flower. And she tapped him on the shoulder. Walt, honey, flowers don't have faces on them. Walt turned around and he looked her straight in the face and he said, mine do. Don't let anybody take your imagination, your boldness away from you. Nobody. Don't let anybody keep you playing small. You can still reclaim it. It's not too late. So today is the day to think big. Be bold. Today is the day to have a new thought about who you are. Not one of those 57,000 recycle. I know it was 58,000, but I skipped a portion. So there's 1,000 that we recycled, and we got rid of those. But we still have 57,000 thoughts that we recycled. Let's pay attention to the new ones, and let's act on the new ones. Imagine big. The second part of that is the attitude of creativity. Do not think you are not creative. Everybody is creative. If you're in this body and you are walking around, you create your life. You create your happiness. You create every experience in your life. So you are creative. So now that you've had a big thought about yourself, is it time to imagine? We did the having that big thought. It's time to imagine big. I love the imagination. Now we talk about the law of universal mind. That's the part of God. God is love and law. So that's the part of God that does. It just gives back what is put into it. The law of attraction, it just gives back what is put into it. The imagination can be big. The law doesn't know the difference between actual facts and what's taking place and the imagination. So imagine big, because the universal law is going to give it back to your life in one form or another. So imagine the good, the big, the bold. Just imagination. Pam Grout writes this: usually when we aspire to be spiritual, we think of things like being kinder, being more understanding, saying more prayers. But in order to fulfill our destiny as spiritual beings, we must also become more creative, more open to the magic, the deep vistas that gush through our souls. We can also squash our creativity, just like our boldness. We can squash it. And so I remember as a very young child, I loved performing. I sang everywhere I could, and my sister's here, she can attest to all of these things. I sang, I performed, I wrote, I acted wherever I could, whenever I could, and that includes Carnegie Hall at 12. I performed there too. But what happened after being told over and over again how terrible it was, how awful it was by my mother, everyone else loved it, it kind of got less and less, but I still persevere because I'm that kind of person, if you can't tell. It takes a lot. It takes a lot. But then devastating life changes happened at a very young age, and so I pushed it aside. And I feel like I did lose that voice. I did. I lost the voice. I lost the passion for acting. But here I am, again, up here in front of you on a microphone. It came through in a different way. It came through in a different way. So don't think because those passions that you had are no longer in your life that it can't come through in a different channel, because it can. I'm here to tell you that because I'm here to live that. And I hope you all are joining me in that. And so in this thing called you, Ernest Holmes wrote this: you exist so that the divine feeling, fire, imagination, and creativity may be expressed through you. The Spirit comes to you with a new and fresh creativity. You need not ask what others have done or how they have done it. Be yourself and express life as you find it. Never imitate. I can't say that strongly enough. Never imitate anyone else, because they're not any better than you are. That's from me, not Ernest Holmes. But I'm just telling you. Trust the self. Find the self in the divine, and the divine within the self. That's from Ernest Holmes. The spiritual truth I want you to walk away with today, because we always want you to walk away with something you can use in your life. That's why I'm calling these spiritual empowerment talks, because I really believe that's what they are, to empower us to live the life we're meant to live. But if there's one thing, you are naturally creative in your own right. Each and every person, in a variety of ways, so it's not just one. There's no limitation in the infinite, right? If there's no limitation, then we are expansive. All things are possible. We need to dream them. We need to imagine them. We are all gifted artists, each and every one of us. I have heard it said that an artist is not a different kind of person, but every person in a different kind of way shows up creatively in their lives if they let themselves. We're creating either consciously or by default. We're still creating. We'll always be creating. So I want you to know the concept is as much for those of you who consider yourself creative as for those who don't. And often I've seen those who are creative, they lack self-esteem in other creative areas. So we're all in this together, right? We're all in this together. No one is separate. No one. But what comes into play is the lack of ability, the lack of the belief that we are creative beings in one area and not in another. Or I've seen people completely block themselves off to all creativity, and they just live that rote life, and that's fine. That's fine if it works for them. But if it doesn't work for you and you can feel something pulling at your heart and your soul, listen to it. Listen to it. Every day you can bring creativity into your experience, imagination, originality, and potential. So I invite you to realize and accept that you are meant to live creatively. That's really important. The first impulse of the universe is creativity. It's always creating, always creating. Then we move on to play big. That's the attitude of happiness. One of my favorite qualities. Happiness. Happiness should be the foundation through which we wake up every morning and make that proclamation to ourselves. Today will be a happy day. I will find happiness in every moment of today. In the Bhagavad Gita, we are told that the full nature of God is joy, and we are enjoyers. That's why we're called Joyful Gathering Spiritual Center, to live in joy. And I have a story for you. 92-year-old petite, well-poised, proud lady who is fully dressed each morning by 8 o'clock, with her hair fashionably coiffed, her makeup perfectly applied, even though she's legally blind, moved to a nursing home today. Her husband of 70 years recently passed away, making the move necessary. After many hours of waiting patiently in the lobby of the nursing home, she smiled sweetly when she was told that her room was ready for her. And as she maneuvered her walker to the elevator, the aide provided a visual description of her tiny room, including the eyelet sheets that were covering the windows. "Oh, I just love it," said the woman so sweetly and excitedly. You would have thought it was an 8-year-old receiving a new puppy. She was so excited. "Mrs. Jones, you haven't seen the room yet." "Just wait," the aide said. "That doesn't have anything to do with it," she replied. "Happiness is something you decide on ahead of time. Whether I like my room or not doesn't matter. It doesn't depend on how the furniture is arranged. It depends on how I arrange my mind. And I've already decided to accept it and love it. I make that decision," she said, "every morning when I wake up. I have a choice," and we all have that choice. "I could spend the day in bed recounting the difficulties I have with parts of my body that no longer work, or I can get out of bed and be thankful for the ones that do. Each day is a gift, and as long as my eyes are open, I'll focus on the new day and all the happy memories I've stored away just for this time in my life." And that's for all of us. To be grateful for what is. To be grateful for what is. One of the most radical things we can do, radical, is to decide to be happy. Make that decision. It's radical. I don't care what's going on in life. I'm going to be happy anyway. It's a radical, isn't that crazy? But it is. Holmes tells us in Science of Mind, anything that will enable us to express greater life, greater happiness, greater power, so long as it does not harm anyone, must be the will of God for us. As much life as we can conceive will become part of our experience. It will become part of our experience. We experience what we think, how we react to situations. How do we react? We can be sad sometimes. That's okay. We're humans. I'm very sad that my son's best friend passed away. I knew him. I'm very sad. But you know what? I can still be happy for the life he lived. You know what his son said to him? So Ian got the phone call Friday driving home from the boy's birthday. They're here today. They were 8 years old on Friday. His friend called, another friend that's alive, of course, and told him to pull over. He pulled over, and he was crying hysterically, Ian. And Aiden goes, "Daddy, I know something that will make you happy." And he's like, "What?" You know, because he's like very emotional. And he said, "His spirit will always be with you, and his spirit will always make you happy because you had so much love together." And this is coming from, just turned that day, an 8-year-old, reminding Dad, you can be happy. Eventually he'll get to that point. But right now he's in grief. But he'll get to that point, and he'll remember that that child gave him those words of wisdom. So Grout, where am I? I don't even know. If we want to live big, we must make that choice to live in happiness. So Pam Grout wrote this: "You're the only one who can decide if your glass is half empty or half full. Enthusiastic, childlike joy is not something you need to grow out of. One of the greatest ways to serve your fellow man is to figure out a way to enjoy yourself." Yes. "And to let people know that enjoying yourself is a good thing. Vow today to approach your life with a sense of aliveness, intentionally deciding that you're only going to look for the good and concentrate on the beautiful. When you decide to practice the attitude of happiness, boredom turns into exploration. Canceled flights turn into a party. Waiting in line becomes a great opportunity to meet people. Vacuuming the floor becomes a ballet. Perform to Van Morrison, if you like." This is from a book. And of A rainy day calls for an indoor picnic with 5 kinds of cheeses. Make this revolutionary attitude, make it now. Switch to it today. We were so blessed 2 years ago to have Pam Grout at our conference, our affiliated New Thought conference that we have annually. And you could see she's a very playful person. That she had a big beach ball that she was throwing to everybody, and just having it. She had us all alive and up and living life as if we were kids. So she's the real deal. So today we've talked about thinking big, which is the boldness, imagining big, which is creativity, and playing big, which is happiness. I said earlier today that you will have a big, bold new thought about who you are. Not one of those 57,000 recycled thoughts, but a brand new one. And so I mean right now. So let's just think, right now. What is a big, bold, new thought that you could have about yourself? I don't care how, it says big, but the universe doesn't know size. Go ahead and have that new thought. Just hold it. And now I ask you, what is something that is wanting to be created from you? If you don't get this now, it'll appear later. Something that is wanting within you to be created from you. What has been knocking at your door? What is a new thought that you could have about it today? And finally, I'll give you a second. Finally, what is a new thought you could have about your ability to play big or have an attitude of happiness? Just one thing. It changes everything. You could be smiling at someone when you don't feel like smiling. You ever do that? I have. It changes my attitude about myself, and it changes the person who's receiving the smile. It's a gift. It's playing big. A small gesture is playing big. And finally, we already said that. But what I want us to remember, truly, from today, is to think about moving boldly, to think about creativity. I just got a brand new, I'm now addicted to, not addicted, but in the process of becoming, to the Facebook marketplace. Good? Okay. So I've been purchasing these things of beauty. I have to stop now because I don't want to overload the house. I have an abundant consciousness, but you know, there's clutter too. But it's a beautiful, gorgeous vase. It's a pot, gorgeous, beautiful in every way. It brings me happiness. I placed it in a place. I created beauty. Right there. That makes me happy. It reminds me. This God is in everything. It reminds me of that. So, when God is expressed through one who lives in that consciousness of playing big, it could be smelling a flower, growing a flower, your orchid buds. Whoa! Your orchid bud starts budding again. It's great joy. That's playing big. And then it's also going to that green growing edge of becoming, and then crossing over that edge into that unknown where infinite potential lies. That's where it lies. It doesn't lie usually in the known. It lies when we step out of the known and expand who we are, our consciousness, our way of being. We're playing big. So I invite you all, play big today.